connecting to the internet.
Internet.
Networking software.
World Wide Web thing on a computer today.
Computer.
NetSurfer Pro.
Welcome back to NetSurfer Pro, a whirlwind ride through the World Wide Web. I am your guide, Matt, and with me is my co-guide,
Galen. And today, I have a particularly evil idea.
What is it?
You see, Matt, it's a new year, 2002 plus 1.
That's 2003. I think you've done the math wrong.
Yes, sorry. It's 2007, actually, because, unfortunately, though you, in the future, you, the listener, can no longer play Flash games, we happen to have a particular set of skills and a time machine.
And Google.
And we also know how to, Google Flashpoint launcher and play Flash games.
So
evilly.
So what's your evil plan then? That sounds like just bragging.
Well, people are obviously very upset at the death of Flash. You see, Flash, for those who are unaware, is an Adobe Flash player was basically the only way to play any Flash games online. Because it was specifically made for that program. Adobe, however, stopped updating Flash come 2021, and so 2021 starts today, and all Flash games on the internet no longer playable.
Yeah, we're actually recording this on New Year's Day.
Yes.
So yeah, Flash is no longer playable unless you have the Flash player on your computer, like a Flash emulator.
Yes.
So just backing up a bit. So Flash was a program first developed by Macromedia and released in 1996. It wasn't the first open framework for things like games or animations, but it was definitely the most popular. It popularized, web games as a whole. Part of that was due to the circumstances around it, which we'll get to in a second, but they discontinued it now, and the only way to play it is, like I said, with an emulator or something, which, as we briefly mentioned, thanks to Flashpoint, Blue Maxima, we've been able to play Flash games as they are trying to catalog and archive everything. And that is important because this month is our Flash Jan-eulogy. That's the best pun I could come up with. It is a eulogy for Flash as a whole, specifically Flash games, which we'll be covering for most of it. A good half, maybe more than half, 51%.
It's about half. It's about half for what we're talking about, but for, I would say, importance, it's definitely the Flash games are honestly lower on the list of importance. But that's in the future. That's the secret final episode of this Flash Jan eulogy.
Right. Yeah. Instead, we're starting with just Flash games. I want to go a bit into the history of Flash as a whole, though.
Yes, please do.
So, first off, Flash's big thing was it allowed pretty much anyone to make animation and games in an approachable format. It's not like game dev kits that require extensive coding knowledge. Like I said, it wasn't the first platform. I believe Click Team Fusion came out beforehand, but it was very influential. Alongside Flash came Flash hosting sites. Stuff like Newgrounds, I think, was the main original one, where they allowed anyone to upload their work and anyone to search for those work, plural. And a lot of these led to sort of early viral hits of Flash animations and, of course, games. Flash games as a whole kind of became their own ecosystem, eventually spawning other websites devoted to games like Armor Games or Addicting Games or Cool Math Games, and so forth. Some of the big reasons is that they are generally low quality, but they're also low barrier to entry. So people aren't as intimidated by having to make a perfect game when they first release it. And that means that people can gain recognition even if their game isn't retail quality. Shorter games are easier to make by yourself, especially when you get into assets like audio and visuals and animations. And the huge galleries of games on these Flash websites made jumping between individual games really easy. And so it was okay to have these smaller, shorter pieces because they're meant to be more bite-sized. Like video game versions of Vines or TikToks nowadays.
Honestly, I think that's a very good way to describe it. Of they're the video game versions of Vines, because like Vines, there's also a lot more you can do with a very short Flash game than with something that has to appeal to a broader audience.
Right.
Like one of the big mascots on Newgrounds, Pico, who's the like child, green shirt, orange hair, usually has like a submachine gun. You would probably recognize him if you saw him. He, like, his first game, Pico's School Day or something like that, was a game about a school shooting where they make, you know, all kinds of really, I mean, horrible jokes, especially nowadays. But like that was the kind of content that, like, I'd say that was sort of the honeymoon period with Flash. Once a lot of smaller creators and especially younger creators sort of got into it, that was the first thing that stuck. Was like, wait, I can be as violent as I want to, or I can be as, you know, offensive as I want to.
Yeah,
and
it was in the wild west of the internet, sort of, where things like copyright and TV ratings or, like, you know, audience guidelines did not exist.
Yeah, and it was low quality. No small amount of it was low quality, but from that low quality, there also did emerge no small amount of gems.
Right.
We are going to talk about some more of the, like, earlier gems in the next episode, but for this episode, we're actually focusing on, I think, somebody who came in a little bit later, like,
Right.
not later, but like it was a little bit after the Newgrounds period, because he was primarily on Armor games
Right.
and Congregate occasionally.
Yeah, there are a lot of, like, nowadays well-known game creators that have retail games that started through Flash games, like the Behemoth, which pretty much started as, like, Newgrounds. Were they the founders of Newgrounds?
I know is one of them Tom Fulp?
Yeah.
Because I believe that one of them is the founder of Newgrounds.
Edmund McMillan, creator of Meat Boy, Binding of Isaac, and all that, started as a Flash game creator.
You might recognize the name Ego Raptor or Aaron Hansen of Game Grumps fame, who started off with Flash animations.
Right. Same with, like, Rubber Ross, who was also in Game Grumps for a while. And that's not to say that these animations aren't dead. They're just using other programs nowadays.
Yeah.
It's
a lot easier nowadays to upload to YouTube than to find, well, especially now, to find a place that will host a Flash animation.
Right. Flash, like, games and animations were free for somebody to submit. They weren't free to host, obviously, because hosting websites cost money, but they were free to people to submit to these websites. So you find just a huge variety of things. One more sort of important historic point is that for a lot of people of, like, our generation, there was the whole, it's like when schools started getting computers and having, like, computer labs, as in, like, public schools, for example, you know, these gaming websites were a sort of oasis in a way, especially if you consider the Ready Player One oasis. But but so like everybody that went on these websites had their, like, favorite game on them, or, like, the game that mattered the most to them. And part of why these are so, like, viral is because they would get passed around in these school labs.
Yeah, I remember when the two of us were in high school, pretty much the entire computer time spent not doing actual computer work was spent playing Bloons Tower Defense 5, I believe, was kind of the big thing among our like generation
Grade,
isn't the word,
class.
peers.
Yeah. I think even the teacher or like the person overseeing the computer lab played web games. Because like, what else are
Yeah.
you gonna do? But
this
but
was certainly like past the point of like, oh no, computers are only for this. Like, this was, after a while, the schools just kind of shrug.
yeah, it's recess too, recess.
No,
So,
that's 3 you're thinking
oh,
of.
sorry. Yeah, so yeah, it's sort of it's very culturally relevant for people of our generation especially, but also just for like games and animation as a whole. So I think with that being said, we can go ahead and actually bring up who and what we're talking about.
Yes. So if you have played Flash games, especially on Armor games, like I said, you might recognize the moniker of a man named John Cooney, or as his screen name was, JMTB02.
And if you don't recognize that, you'll probably recognize the animal that's in most of his popular games.
Yes. A lot of his popular games featured a little blue elephant, just like a little blue like elephant silhouettes, although it did get upgraded with better art after a little bit. But the little blue elephant, I think, would embody a lot of Flash games to a lot of people who grew up with it, and especially the two really big series of Achievement Unlocked and This Is the Only Level.
Yeah. And those are the two main ones. There are other games that JMTBO2 made that we're probably going to mention.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will be talking about a lot of his other games, but only in sort of brief.
And again, all of these we were able to find on the Flashpoint archive. So if you want to play along for like a few minutes for each game to really get what we're talking about, this is the best episodes to do that, because it's very quick is what I'm saying.
So do we want to go ahead and start with probably the most important one, Achievement Unlocked?
Yeah. So Achievement Unlocked is a game where you control the little blue elephant in like a small room of a platformer. There are like spikes, there are elevators that push you up, there's these numbers on the wall, but the most important thing is on the right side of the screen there is a huge list of achievements, as in like think of it like video games nowadays have a lot of achievements. It's kind of a standard practice. I think it's actually more financially viable for a video game to have achievements now than if it doesn't.
Yeah.
What I remember John Blow saying.
And the other context as well is that this game came at a point of the Xbox 360 and like your gamer score and whatnot, where games would give you achievements that had various points to them, and so no small amount of jokes were made about games that had very tiny pointless achievements. For the Simpsons game gave you an achievement for pressing start.
Right.
The B-movie game gave you an achievement for getting in a car.
Right.
Various things like that.
It's games that would give you these achievements that weren't achievements in the definition of them, but they were like technical achievements. They gave you points, but they weren't really anything to be proud of or to have on a trophy shelf.
They were Skinner box achievements, basically.
Yeah.
It was, here's a small reward for doing something really, really menial in this game. And that's sort of the context of Achievement Unlocked.
Right. Everything in Achievement Unlocked gives you an achievement. Even standing still gives you an achievement. Moving gives you an achievement. Jumping, pausing, dying again, dying some more times. And then even getting achievements gives you achievements. In fact, you can get 10% of the achievements in the game by doing nothing, which is really funny.
Yeah, but even more so as well, it doesn't just give you achievements for stuff you would think to do in game. It also gives you achievements for interacting with the game in ways you don't immediately think of. Muting the game gives you an achievement. Messing with the quality gives you an achievement. Right clicking can give you an achievement.
Pressing 1 through 9 or 1 through 5 on the keyboard.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ones is in this first game, if you press spacebar, it gives you an achievement for doing nothing, because up on the keys, or W on WASD, is the jump button. So it's like playing a joke, like you thought spacebar was jump? Think again.
I really like the Achievement Unlocked series, specifically 1 and 2, just because it's meta, but it's in a very unironic way. And that's something that I think is a little bit lost in the modern times, where like a lot of meta in modern times is very irony laced in the sort of like internet can't have anything sincere way. And again, I want to qualify this by saying that is no mean all encapsulating. There is a lot of meta stuff that is not like cynical in that way, but I think that there's a certain amount of innocence in the poking fun with Achievement Unlocked, where specifically the first one, a lot of the achievements are obviously, just things that you wouldn't think to do, pointless stuff, what have you, but the joke is entirely contained. You don't really need a lot of outside context to get the joke immediately. It just sort of adds to the joke.
Right, yeah. It's also not super self-deprecating. Like, it's not making fun of itself for giving you an achievement for pressing pause. Kind of the achievement for pressing pause just exists, and then you get it, and then that's it. It doesn't have like a quip to say like, oh, aren't we so lazy for giving you this achievement? Yeah, it kind of just goes through it,
Yeah.
It doesn't draw a ton of attention.
Even Achievement Unlocked 2 gets sort of self-referential with the quote-unquote expansions, which is itself as well a poking fun at the excessive DLC practices of the period, where, stuff that should have been part of the main game is completely bifurcated from the game itself and sold to you as extra content.
Yeah.
Which thankfully doesn't exist anymore, he said, looking into the camera.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Achievement Unlocked 1 is pretty minimalist. There aren't a lot of mechanics per se. There aren't a lot of verbs. So when you talk about game design, there's player verbs, things that the player does. So if there's jump, and then there's die, those are really the two verbs. I guess move, but like there's not a whole lot of other interaction the player does directly. There are like things you hit. There are these numbers where if you hit them in different orders, you get achievements, which is sort of like a little puzzle. Some of them require figuring out what the achievement actually wants you to do.
Yeah, isn't one of them to hit them in the sequence of pi 314?
Yeah, there's also 300, which is 300. There's 0 through 5, and then 5 through 0. So the point is that it does a lot with only like 6 numbers that are on the screen. It gets a lot of mileage out of them, which, I mean, it's really amicable that it can do that sort of depth. I think it's a bit of a problem as the series goes on, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yes.
I don't have much else to say directly on the first game.
Yeah, the first game is... I would say that the first game is, if you play anything of what we're about to talk about, definitely play Achievement Unlocked 1, because it's such a... The game has an achievement for playing it for 5 minutes, and that's the maximum time commitment you need to make if you're quick with all the other achievements.
Yeah, it's like, very straightforward.
It is very small, very, very quick, but it's a wonderful little miasma of like the time period and of game design around that time period.
Yeah. Which I think the second game as we sort of brought up, only goes a bit further into that. Achievement Unlocked 2 has coins, and when you get enough coins, you can buy DLC, which is just you press a button in another room, and it adds like another floor, another screen to the level, to the game, or whatever.
Yeah,
Each
and
screen has its own sort of mini mechanic going on. One of them has like a piano that plays music. One of them has a slot machine. And each of them have their own achievements you get from them.
yeah, the Achievement Unlocked 2 is the same thing but more. And I think it is telling of like Flash games around that time where the same thing but more was kind of how you did a sequel, thinking like, Doodle God, a game where you just sort of put elements together to get other elements. Doodle God 2 was just more elements to put together.
Yeah.
And I think Achievement Unlocked 2, I think that it is a good sequel. I think that it is a good game in and of itself, but I also think that it dips in quality just a little bit when we get to it.
Right. I think the whole DLC sort of concept is still fitting with the commentary of Achievement Unlocked.
Absolutely.
And having more achievements in and of itself is still part of that commentary. I think the big thing for me is that it adds a lot more verbs, mainly the pastry button, which is what the spacebar does now. I guess,
and which also becomes, I believe, a staple from that point onward for the elephant.
Yeah. I believe that the idea was just that the spacebar does something, so people who played the first game and try to press the spacebar to get a free achievement now have another thing to follow, which sort of fits. It reminds me of Banjo-Kazooie, how the second game just keeps all the upgrades from the first one without making you get them again. And then also, I think one thing I do like is that once you've bought every DLC, you go to the top floor and it's like the roof of a tower, and you can fill the building with water, which makes it a lot easier to get some of like the higher up platforming challenges.
And I do also like that in the sense that the very top is a mechanic that recontextualizes all of the previous floors, where like the water mechanics make you float less, like they make you float a lot more when you're falling, and they also make it, like you said, easier to jump up. And so it's something that once you get to it, you've probably explored no small amount of the rest of the tower, and it's like, how am I supposed to get to that corner? And then you fill it up with water, and it's like, you suddenly have to think about the previous floors in not an entirely different way, but in a way that works with the new mechanic.
It helps you clean up, sort of. Get a lot of the remaining achievements, including ones that specifically require water. But I think that's a really clever mechanic in this case, in that it makes it easier to get some of the harder achievements, and then it also, like you said, recontextualizes all the other floors.
Yeah.
It's not quite minimalist because it's still after like 5 or so floors of different mechanics, but it helps work towards that. It helps just kind of add something that doesn't really, it's not too complex, but it adds a lot of depth to it. I do also want to mention the roof of the building is like post-apocalyptic, which also is a sort of trope at the time, to have like either like a wasteland like Fallout, or it was secretly post-apoc the whole time.
Yeah.
Something like the Maze Runner, or the lesser known web series The Vault, which is very good. I always recommend it. Nobody's heard of it.
I haven't heard of it, so you definitely know nobody's heard of it.
Nice. But don't think you're a nobody.
Aw, thank you, Matt.
But Achievement Unlocked 2, yeah, it's more of the same, which I guess is okay in this case. So before we do Achievement Unlocked 3, I think I want to go to This Is the Only Level, because I want to kind of touch on This Is the Only Level 3 and Achievement Unlocked 3 at kind of the same time.
Yes. So This Is the Only Level 1 was, I believe, made specifically with like in conjunction with Armor Games, the Flash game hosting website, because at this point, JMTB was more recognized, and so This Is the Only Level was made immediately after Achievement Unlocked, I believe. I believe it goes Achievement Unlocked, then This Is the Only Level, and then 2 and 2 and 3 and 3.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So you have to think about This Is the Only Level in the context of Achievement Unlocked being the only other one. But the joke of This Is the Only Level, the overarching joke, is that there is one level of the game, level 1, and there are 30 stages to level 1.
Yeah. And it's not just that, it's 30 iterations. The terrain and the geometry of the level is the same, but the rules and the physics are different every time. And so part of it is like adapting to these new rules with the exact same level layout. Part of it is actually figuring out what the rules mean. So for example, the first stage of level 1 is you go forward, you push a button that opens a door in front of a pipe, and then you leave through the pipe. It plays pretty much the exact same as Achievement Unlocks platforming, pretty straightforward. The second stage, if you press right, you go left, and if you press left, you go right. There also happens to be spikes to the left of the pipe you start in. So, like, it immediately hits you in the face with, like, nope, that's not the rules, these are the rules.
Yeah. The only hints you have are the level name, or the stage names, sorry. The stage names themselves, which will usually be something not too vague to not give you the idea. But like definitely vague enough that when you immediately start playing or when you immediately drop in, you have to sort of parse it out.
Yeah. And there's a whole lot of different ideas behind the stages. So like some examples are, there's a stage where there's a wind pushing you back constantly, so if you don't hold forward you'll probably die. There is one where instead of actually moving, you just press left and right on the arrow keys and it automatically like pushes you in the direction you need to go, which I think is called left right march.
Yeah.
There is one where you can't jump, but the gate at the end of the level is already open, so you just kind of walk along. Because I really want to mention the layout of the level. It has like the buttons on a platform higher than what you start, but the platforms going to the exit are on like a downward slope. And the level where you can't jump is maybe like a little over halfway through. So the fact that you can just walk forward doesn't really come to mind until it has to be done. It's really, I think the big thing about the This Is the Only Level games is that they are built off of repurposing the exact same level over and over. It's like every part of the stage or the level or whatever becomes relevant at some point. There are spikes on the right wall above the pipe in a place you normally wouldn't go to until the level where the floor collapses under you, and so you have to fall into where the pipe is instead of pressing the button. You know, it's something where you don't start out by worrying about it, but then there will be a stage at some point where it's like, oh, that's actually a threat now. And instead of adding those spikes for that stage, all they had to do was change the rules and then keep the spikes there the whole time.
One of the like great things with Flash was the games that felt like somebody simply said, what do I have and what can I do with it? And This Is the Only Level really sort of helps embody that, where he created one level and just sort of said, what is every sort of thing I can do to mess with the player in this one level and make it fun? Which also, as in Achievement Unlocked, also gets a little bit meta, where I believe the really big stinger is the level where you have to refresh the page in order to actually open it.
Yeah. Um
Uh, but there's also like a level where instead of moving with the arrow keys or WASD, you have to move the mouse itself and click to jump. Uh, or the level where you get only one jump, and so you have to, you have to make the immediate jump and then go all the way to the right. Like it's those little sort of toying at the little tropes and like what is sort of standard with Flash games at the time that really makes the level, this is the only level, something special.
yeah, and even then it's like there are actually just some decent platforming levels. I think it's in
Yeah.
the first one where there is a level where you're like constantly falling through the floor, but it screen wraps you back to the top. So the only thing you have to do is dodge the spikes that are on the everything. But like it becomes super hard because the button you have to press to open the door is between the spikes. And even if you don't press it, because I guess you don't technically have to for that level, you still have to find a way to go through the spikes.
Yeah.
Might be in the
Yeah.
second game now that I think about it. Either way, it's these like actually kind of tricky platforming challenges that make it kind of stand out from Achievement Unlocked.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the only level is slightly less iconic than Achievement Unlocked, but I would say that for this is the only level as a series, it probably is like more consistently good, in my opinion.
Well, then let's go to level 2.
Indeed.
Yeah, this is the
Uh,
only level 2 is level 2.
and I don't know that there's terribly much more to say about it. It works more along the same lines as this is the only level one.
Right.
It does more with it's simply sitting down, making a new level and asking the same question but trying to go even further with it. The standout of like meta in this one being the level where in order to complete it you actually have to go back to the menu, and if you notice there's a button like on the top left, and the elephant himself can act controlled with WASD.
Yeah, it's a little more meta than the first one, I think. I do like some of the like more conceptual levels. I'm pretty sure level 2 had the the screen wrapping one. It also
Yeah.
had a Mario one called World 1 2. And the idea is that if you hit a block with your head, it breaks, and so you have to hit the top of the room and then go through like a warp zone. But all the pipes in the warp zone take you to level 2, which
Which
I
is
love.
also a very good joke.
And my other favorite one in level 2 is On Ice, which turns it into a sliding ice puzzle. So instead of jumping, you just move until you hit a wall. It's like those aren't even like, I mean, I guess the Mario one's still platforming, but that's more of like a puzzle or a riddle maybe. And then On
Yeah.
Ice is just a completely different genre of game. I mean, yeah, there's not much else to say about level 2. It does pretty similar things, but overall, still good. The geometry is a bit more complex. There's like a big plus sign on the right side of the stage, but the design of it is extremely relevant multiple times. So,
Yeah.
I think these are great games to look at if you want to like really study game design for the purpose of recontextualizing things. Go through and see like how many times is this part of the stage relevant or this part of the stage. How many times do you have to consider Spike's position compared to other things? And just kind of see how many times those are used, because it's very, I think that's what makes these games, the Achievement Unlocked and This Is the Only Level games, stand out so much to me, is just how much they reuse things, how much they get away with.
With that, do we want to move on to Achievement Unlocked 3?
Yeah.
Wee woo, wee woo, wee woo. Uh oh. Uh oh. I'm sorry. I think that's the hot take police.
Uh-oh.
Well, they're gonna have to take me alive because my hot take is that I do not like Achievement Unlocked 3 all that much.
They'll have to take me alive too because I do not like Achievement Unlocked 3 all that much.
So, Achievement Unlocked 3, for a little more context, this was around the time where JMTB, John Cooney, also started working with an artist named Jimp, Jimp, I think, to give his work a little more of a distinctive style, or rather more distinctively stylized than just a elephant silhouette. And this is also the period where I guess the way to put it is that the way I would put it is that he started making his own actual games that were games in and of themselves rather than your Achievement Unlocked or your this is the only level, where it's the context of it is outside of the game itself as well. So Achievement Unlocked 3 is in and of itself its own game. And the plot is that the elephant sort of drops into a world, and there's a king hamster that has trapped you, and you have to buy him 600 things of
Food pellets, yeah.
yeah. And so the idea of it is similar. It still has all of the same mechanics, but the joke is a little more muddled because it's just sort of a game into itself rather than the entire game being the achievements.
Right.
And it's also
there's like story and world building and plot progression.
Yeah, there's a story, there's just a lot more level to it as well, which is I honestly think doesn't really work for Achievement Unlocked.
Yeah.
Like Achievement Unlocked 2, for having 5 levels and a top layer that, you know, recontextualizes all of them, is also still something that can be played in speedrun in about 12 minutes, I believe. Like it's bigger, but it's still something you could play within a single like lunch break at school.
Right, yeah. I think so just to go over it a bit, Achievement Unlocked 3 still has the whole achievement thing, obviously, but it adds, like, you still have the pastry button, but it adds a hamster cannon that shoots hamsters that you can bounce off of. It adds, instead of, like, filling rooms with water, there's a little pool of water you can jump in, and then you can, like, make things wet by walking out of it. There's also a fire, and there are a lot of achievements based around lighting things on fire. I do think one thing is that the fire adds a bit more of a platforming side to it than Achievement Unlocked 1 and 2, because the fire has, like, a strict time limit, and you have to, like, get to a torch before the time limit runs out, or else you won't be able to light the torch. And the only torch that starts with fire is in the King Hamster's room, so, like, you kind of have to carry it along the whole map. Which isn't bad by itself, but I think the thing I realized is that Achievement Unlocked 2 and 3 and 1 don't have very good platforming mechanics. It has a thing where, like, if you jump onto a platform that's below you, then you bounce a little bit before getting your jump back. It has a thing, so it has a double jump, but you don't get the double jump back that often, and the times when you can use it are kind of weird. I'm honestly not sure if you can use it when you just walk off a platform.
Yeah.
And even then, the other games weren't too big on platforming itself. This is the only level was more of the platforming game, but there is a Kaizo level in Achievement Unlocked 3 called the Pit. Actually, I guess it would be a pit hack then, which is a type of super difficult Mario World ROM hack. But yeah, it's like there's this literal platforming section with a ton of spikes and everything, and that took me way too long to get through, just because like the platforming was not built for that.
I will spoil that. I did not know about the pit because I did not complete Achievement Unlocked 3. I got bored of it fairly quickly.
Yeah, I powered through it somehow. The money gives you food pellets, which then give you new areas to explore. So there's like this kind of extra layer added into that doesn't really need to be done.
Yeah.
The game as a whole, like, it feels like scope creep. Like, so we talked about how Achievement Unlocked 2 is more of the same of the first one. It feels like there was sort of a desire to do more of the more, but it's hard to do that on like the Flash game budget and time limit and skill set without like adding all these extra verbs and mechanics, which is what happened.
Yeah.
You know, Achievement Unlocked 2 doesn't add a whole lot of like new verbs. It just adds these like a few buttons in each floor. But this had to add all these other things because it couldn't just repeat that.
Yeah. The Achievement Unlocked 3, where Achievement Unlocked 3 fails, that I, to spoil my opinion, think this is the only level 3 actually succeeds, is that the joke of Achievement Unlocked is not the gameplay itself. It's the things surrounding the gameplay. And so trying to make an actual game out of Achievement Unlocked just kind of, I won't say misses the joke because he's the creator of the joke, but I think it doesn't work with the joke.
Yeah.
It just sort of, at that point, make a different game, which he did, which we will talk about in a minute.
Achievement Unlocked 1 and 2, it's very easy to focus on the achievement list because that's sort of like your ultimate goal. But Achievement Unlocked 3, it feels like it gets muddled in like the other side goals of getting all the coins for the food pellets and getting all the torches lit on fire. And so like it kind of gets lost in the background, which is not the name of the game.
Yeah.
It's not you have to light the torch. So yeah, it's not great. And so I think let's just go ahead and go on to this is the only level 3.
Yes.
Oh, I do want to mention, I believe there's an Achievement Unlocked 4, or was it a this is the only level 4 that was made without JMTBO2?
Oh man, I do vaguely remember this. It's
Oh no,
probably...
it was in my notes. I have it written down. It was this is the only level 4.
Okay.
That wasn't done by JMTBO2, and it doesn't have the elephant either.
Doesn't it have like a llama or something?
It's like a walrus.
Yeah, okay.
But let's talk about 3.
I like 3 actually. I like this the only level 3.
I have to admit, I couldn't get past a certain point. There was a stage that was like you have to open another window, but I couldn't figure out how to do that in Flashpoint.
Yeah, that is probably going to be the big problem with Flashpoint, is that something like this is the only level, you're going to have to... Okay, this is the problem with Flash dying.
Yeah.
This is the problem with Flash dying, is that there are means of archiving Flash. There are, but like the context of all of the Flash games are just dead now.
Right. Flash existed in an environment, and you can't fully recreate that environment.
Yeah, and the problem, I do not blame Adobe for saying we want to stop updating this product, what have you. What I do blame Adobe for is, if you are going to kill a product like that so much of the internet depends on, or really, even if you're just going to kill a product to begin with, release the source code.
Yeah.
Like, make it completely open, because I mean, you're not going to make any money off of it. You're not going to you've decided you don't want to spend the resources, so give it to the people who want to use those resources.
I can see wanting to avoid like security issues that may that may happen if they get the source code, because like, that's a thing. But
Yeah.
I think the bigger problem for me is that like websites just can't opt in to run Flash or support it. There's no like legacy edition of it that can be run. And so things that relied on being in a web browser, like this is the only level 3, aren't.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just up to the people that make the emulators to try and add in that functionality.
Yeah, it's God bless the Blue Maxima Flashpoint people, but the problem is that we need to archive, and it is decidedly made harder because of the issues surrounding it and the company that has the materials. The companies that are the reason that we need to archive. So this is the only level 3. Despite it being kind of incompletable with Flashpoint at this moment, I like it for one simple reason, and that is the switch from a button to a like switch itself, like a lever.
Yeah,
because this is the only level 3 feels like what this is the only level 2 is to this is the only level 1, because it's just one extra idea or a couple extra ideas, but everything is still core to what it was.
Yeah, the lever works really well because it's not super complicated, and it adds a lot of depth because you could like complete it halfway. The direction you approach the lever from matters, stuff like that. There are also doors that you press up on and it teleports you to another door. I could have done without them. I think something I noticed from what I played was that there are less control-based levels and more levels that involve introducing new mechanics or like riddles.
Yeah.
So like there's more meta stuff like opening another window. There's one where when you press up on a door, it puts you behind the level and you can kind of just fly to wherever. Stuff like that, where it's like a new gameplay mechanic, like I said.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I think it works well enough in this game. It's just a very striking change from, to play the first one and then the second and then the third, to see sort of how it transitioned from these like basic control scheme changes. Like there's no level where it just switches left and right. No level where it is click to move.
Yeah.
Because I guess you can only do those once in a way.
Yeah. I wouldn't say this is the only level 3 is the best of the 3. I basically just think that where Achievement Unlocked 3 gets lost in trying to add stuff, I think that the way this is the only level 3 adds things is more true to the first 2 than the third Achievement Unlocked is.
Right.
To its first 2.
My biggest problem, other than the fact that I couldn't play past half of it, was that there is a level called the Toho Project, and it's a bullet hell level, but it has Ikaruga mechanics. You could have just called it, like, elephankaruga or something, I don't know. Because it's where you're a blue elephant, and so you can absorb the blue bullets, but you get killed by the red bullets. I'm just like, how did you miss the mark so hard?
I'm making a call-out post to my twitter.com. John Cooney, you don't know shit about Toho.
Yeah, I swear. Because it was called Toho Project, so I tried dodging the blue bullets at first, and I died to a red one. And then I hit the blue one, I was like, oh, it's not Toho. Cool.
Yeah.
But no, it's not a bad game. I think it's a good end to the trilogy for this is the only level. It definitely goes above and beyond in some ways, like having a bullet hell stage.
Yeah.
But I think overall it's okay that it's above and beyond because the level itself doesn't change still. I think it was good to end it. I say good to end it, there is a fourth one, but I don't really know the situation behind it. But I think it's good that JMTB ended it there because I feel like it'd be hard to come up with original ideas after that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a trilogy is a nice, arc. And I think that for This Is the Only Level, I won't say nailed, but like certainly did it very well.
Yeah. Maybe an 8 on the landing instead of 10, but
Yeah.
so I was actually really busy, so I didn't get a chance to play the other JMTBO2 games. So you will have to take the wheel here.
Yes. So I'll make this a little bit brief because I believe that the episode has gone on for no small amount of time. Um, other games to sort of talk about. Elephant's Quest is what I would say the you should play instead of Achievement Unlocked 3. Elephant Quest is basically just a like original. It's an original game in and of itself, and the idea is you're the elephant and you have like a little laser that you shoot things with. It has little like level up mechanics that have higher damage, or you get more HP, you do stuff like that. The writing is pretty funny. The other game that I would say that you might want to look into for Elephant is Loot the Game. It's a game where you're just shooting or otherwise destroying a train bit by bit, and there's just a whole bunch of loot going everywhere. It's in the same vein of the joke game of like Achievement Unlocked or This is the Only Level, where the joke is games that give you too much loot. But it's a fun time. It's the kind of game that you can throw 10 minutes into and get the joke of, and if you really like it, then you can continue. But it has merits. It's along the same vein, but it's different enough that if you liked the other elephant games, then you might like it. As for non-elephant games, going to go even quicker here. Balloon in a Wasteland. It's a sort of like gothic-ish sort of tower defense survival game. A little bit of real-time elements. It's a little hard to explain, but it has a wonderful aesthetic, and it's something that I've not seen in a lot of other games. It's hard to describe. What is easy to describe is Epic Combo. You are a little stick man who has a hammer. There are turtles flowing out, and all you do is you press space. You throw your hammer on the ground. Turtles go into their shells, and the shells bounce around everywhere. And your goal is to make a really big combo of turtle shells just bouncing around everywhere. It gives you like bouncers or saws or things like that. It's a fun little arcade game, and the end goal is to get like 10,000 combo, which is not terribly difficult. If you're looking for other bite-sized fun, Corporation Inc. is not bite-sized fun, actually. Corporation Inc. is just basically a straight sequel to Sim Tower.
Neat.
Yeah. Dark Cut is a dark series. Like, surprisingly, it's Trauma Center. It's a Flash game Trauma Center, but like 2 and 3 are actually kind of grotesque. Like they come with a genuine trigger warning of like, if you don't like gore, don't play Dark Cut. Like the first level of Dark Cut 2 has you pushing an arrow through someone's wound.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, it's a lot, but if that's your jam. And the final one that I think should be recommended is Exit Path. Exit Path is a pretty simple like running platformer. Exit Path 1 and 2, but the trappings surrounding it are very fun. It has this sort of like deathly game show crap saccharine world surrounding it, where this is clearly like an entertainment venue in a not post-apocalypse, but like dystopian-ish world that makes it sort of a little bit crunchier than your normal just like run and jump style Flash game. Yeah, I believe that that's all of my recommendations for JMTB.
Yeah, I think just sort of a closing remark is that part of why Flash was so important is it gave this sort of freedom of expression and creation. And JMTB is a great example of a creator that had a brand and an idea they wanted to express, and they were able to do so in this medium.
Yeah, the JMTB has a style, but especially with some of their older games, the way that he was willing to branch out and try something massively different is really fun, but it's not the kind of thing where he didn't also have his own specialties. All of the Elephant games are entirely worthwhile, except maybe for Achievement Unlocked 3. But honestly, even Achievement Unlocked 3 is a decent enough romp if you simply can't get enough of his elephant.
These are quick games.
Yeah. But he is a really good creator. I believe he's still on Twitter. He's still active. I don't know what games he's making nowadays. I was trying to find like an interview that I know exists with him, but I simply could not find it on YouTube for some reason. But yeah, this is, if you like have not experienced Flash games, if they just sort of weren't a part of your growing up, I think that JMTBO2 is a really good developer to sort of start with, because he's good at displaying what Flash games are about, with like both through kind of a historical context of how they developed, and also just from a straight up these are fun games perspective. They're fun, they're bite-sized, they're quirky, they're self-referential, and they are
pretty good.
Formative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that is a good point to wrap things up. I think as a whole, this sort of Flash series is really about just exploring this medium that was super important to us and many other people, kind of as us in the internet were both growing up. And hopefully the next 3 episodes or so are also interesting.
Indeed.
With that, thank you for listening. You can follow me on Twitter at MattCraigGaming. I tweet about things. You can follow us. You can follow us on Twitter at NetSurferPro.
Yes,
where we tweet out episodes and episode hints with emojis. Also, we're on Facebook at NetSurferPro as well. You can follow me on YouTube at youtube.com/IEatAtSonic, which is an older username of mine, where I post YouTube videos and game reviews and analyses and stuff. I have a video on Paradise Killer coming up, if that's your thing.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Galen Wilson, GalenWils0N. I have all kinds of hot takes about all kinds of issues. You will be able to find me on YouTube, but not yet. I haven't made any content, so I'm not plugging that just yet.
And I hope you all have a good new year. Hope it's better than the last.
Certainly hope it's better than the last.
See you later.
See ya.